You are listening to Stages Podcast with Mary Lee Fairbanks and Stephanie J. Block. Welcome to Season 6. Here on Stages Podcast, we go behind the scenes and beyond the resume to explore the crossroads of creativity, spirituality, motherhood, and so much more. Please like and subscribe on YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, all the places. Give us 5 stars and a great review. It really helps us grow. Thanks for joining Stages Podcast, Season 6.
Taylor's already on. Yeah. Oh, are you one of those that if you're on time, you're late?
Oh, but I live on a boat. And so, when you're on a boat, you got to make sure everything works.
Yeah. You've got to have a cushion of the just in cases.
But we also tend to just kind of go off real free flow
and
see where life takes us.
I don't care what the show call.
Very character 3. Very character 3.
Yeah. You caught me on the boat. Life on the boat's like that. It's like, okay, whatever.
This is the pig pen life,
Let's
right?
see where we float. Okay.
Pig pen life.
All
and of course, the boat's name is Brainwaves.
Oh,
that's
nice.
so
I love
clever.
that. Clever. Okay. In 2008, today's guest told her incredible story on a TED Talk that went wildly viral. There is a sign behind her on that TED Talk stage that asks us, who are we? As she tells us the story of her stroke that shut down the left hemisphere of her brain and over 4 hours left her without speech, memories, or control over her body, without identity. All she possessed was the use of her right hemisphere and the ability to experience energy all around her, the energy of consciousness, a space that she calls nirvana. In her masterful TED Talk that blends science, humor, and humanity, we learn about the day of her stroke and the 8 years it took her to heal and write her first book, My Stroke of Insight, a brain scientist's personal journey. She said, "The more time we spend choosing to run the deep inner circuitry of our right hemispheres, the more peace we will project into the world, and the more peaceful our world will be." She answers her own question, who are we, by saying, we are the life force power of the universe. 12 years later, she has published a new book, Whole Brain Living, The Anatomy of Choice and the 4 Characters That Drive Our Life. This book urges us to take control of the circuitry in our own brains and to make new rules of freedom. Her first book encourages us to heal from the inside out. Her second book guides us how to do it. She teaches us about the 4 quadrants or characters in the brain so that we can understand and harness them. She gives us a new way to create the life we want simply by understanding why and how we think. I am so excited to speak to this woman today. Please welcome to Stages Podcast, Harvard-trained neuroanatomist, Dr. Jill Bolte Taylor. Oh my goodness.
Oh my goodness.
I saw your TED Talk in 2008. I read your book way back then. And it's always stayed with me. So when I saw this new book come out, I just thought, what a great way to reach our audience, because our audience is generally a younger audience in their 20 to 32 range, and they're all performers and artists. And I just thought, if we had these tools when I was 20, I would have definitely changed the course of my life in many ways. And I think to get these kinds of messages to really young, curious people is so wonderful and important. And I just love your message and I love what you do.
Perfect. Thank you. Yeah, I've often thought, boy, I wish I knew this when I was 20. I mean, wow, what a different life I would have led in so many ways. So excellent. Thank you. And welcome to your audience.
Oh, thanks. You. And we as artists, we pride ourselves in being in the moment. That's the whole goal. You describe it in a different way, but when I was listening to you speak, and you were speaking about your stroke, and the right part of your brain all took over. And as Mary Lee said, you were just this energetic force that was connected to everything. I wrote down in my notes a blissful blur, and how beautiful to just kind of live in this bliss, almost like, not that we are advocates of or that I have been, but almost like you're so high, right? That isn't that leaf beautiful? And I'm one with the leaf, and my arm extends out to Mary Lee, even though she's in Boston and I'm in California. What a gorgeous place to be. But as you also write, but you can't function in the world, in the relatable reality of what the world is, by only living in that blissful blur. So, was it hard? Can you still access the blissful blur now that you know to get to the different quadrants of your brain?
Yeah, after the morning of the stroke, when I lost that left hemisphere, which has me, my identity, all my details, completely functional in the external world. It can read, it can write, it can communicate with language, it can communicate about me, the individual, because it's got a group of cells that defines the boundaries of where I begin and where I end. So we have to have that in order to be a functional human in the world. And that part of the brain defines what is right, what is wrong, what is good, what is bad. It defines the social norm that we then try to take ourselves and stick inside of, or we go to jail, right? And, I mean, it takes two hemispheres, right, to make this go around. But in the absence of all that detail and all that focus on me, the individual, what do I have? I have the present moment. And in the present moment, I don't have the boundaries of where I begin and where I end. So I experience the energy of what I am to literally be as big as the universe, because energy is connected to energy. There's no stop anywhere. There's no boundary. And in that experience then of the present moment, I am that, not the individual, me, Jill Bolte Taylor. And having been there for 8 full years, I decided I was completely recovered when I was actually water skiing. And I felt that I looked down at the water and I thought, if I wipe out now, that's going to hurt. Now I'm separate from that, and it's going to be me hitting the water instead of me just, blending into this big energetic flow. And so at that point, I decided I was 100% back. But I exist. I live my life as the consciousness of my right brain, visiting the consciousness and using the tools of my left brain to fit inside of the structure of societal norm, and just coming back to being a whole person. So the answer is yes, except I don't go back there. I live there and I come here.
God, I love that.
You own the right brain, you rent the left.
Exactly. The master and the emissary. I mean, there's a beautiful book by Ian McGilchrist called The Master and the Emissary. And that's exactly what that book is about. It's about the master as the right brain, right here, right now, big as the universe, connected to all that is, and the value structure of the we consciousness of us as humanity in relationship to this magnificent planet. And then the tools, the master uses the tools of his emissary, which are the tools of the left brain, language, boundaries of where I begin and end, a social norm, a definition of right and wrong and good and bad, so that we as humans can work together, communicate together, participate together as individuals in the external world. So yeah.
It's interesting. I think there's I think it's an Einstein quote where he says, how we were meant to be, that our instincts and our subconscious is a sacred gift, but we've become a society that has learned to only care about the conscious tool. I'm not saying it the way he said it, but that the gift has flipped, that what we were given is supposed to be our gift, but we've become a society that only cares about the opposite. It's a wonderful quote. I'll look it up and get it right at the end. But
where does the subconscious live, Dr. Jill?
See, that's the thing is according to the medical world, I became unconscious when I had that hemorrhage in the left hemisphere. And so because the left hemisphere and the right hemisphere both have emotional tissue and thinking tissue. So it's not like the right is emotional, the left is rational. It's not like,
which is what we've been told for
yeah,
50
Forever.
years,
Yeah.
60 years.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's just, anatomically not the case. They just do things differently. So we have these two emotional groups of cells, one in the right, one in the left. We have these two thinking modules of cells, one in the right, one in the left. The thinking left module of cells is our rational thinking. It is the portion of our brain that defines the boundaries of where we begin and where we end. I become an individual. I gain language. In language, I can read, I can write. I can communicate with other people. I have speech, and so that is the rational thinking, conscious portion of our brain, which leaves the left emotion, the right emotion, and the right thinking as parts of our unconscious or subconscious brains,
Okay.
simply because they don't have language.
Yeah.
And that was the beauty of my experience, was when I lost that left thinking rational portion of my brain, I wasn't unconscious. I was conscious, but I was conscious at a of it, and had thinking and experiential in a different way because I wasn't distracted by that left rational thinking brain. So there's all this brain, and the beauty of this experience of a neuroanatomist losing the rational thinking conscious part of our brain is now we have insight into, well, what do these other three modules of cells actually do inside of our brain? And when we bring all of that online and acknowledge that we result in these four very specific, predictable, distinctive personalities that we all share based on the anatomy of our brain, then it's like, oh, I don't have to have my unconscious brain be unconscious. I can actually purposely choose which portion of my brain I want to embody. And I think that's as performers and theatrical people, what you're doing is you're asking your own left brain to quiet down so that I can embody a whole different identity, a whole different way of holding my body, a whole different way of speaking, a whole different way of relating without me and my ego I got to pick up my kids in 2 hours and we're not going to have enough time and all of that. So you're asking your own selves to step out of your left thinking rational brain and enter into another part of you where you can fully embody a different character. But you still need, like we said before, we still need the emissary, we still need the skills of language in order to be able to fit ourselves inside the box of whatever character we're trying to be.
Would you call that compartmentalization? Like we're compartmentalizing? My child is sick, but I have to go on stage. So I kind of put the mommy hat away and I leave that aside to do another job. And I'm consciously unlocking another bit of myself so that energies and focus are there. Would that parallel as kind of the same thing or very different?
No, I think that's exactly the same but different language. You would say you're compartmentalizing yourself. As an anatomist, I would say you are differentiating the different parts of who you are at the level of your anatomy.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I think you're engaging it the same thing. You're just using different language than what an organic person would do.
So I just want to do two things really quick. First, the Einstein quote correctly is, the intuitive mind is a sacred gift, and the rational mind is a faithful servant. We have created a society that honors the servant and forgot the gift. That was the quote I was searching for. But my question is, the scientific community can be very data-driven, fact-driven, and anything that cannot be proven within their very strict confines is often dismissed. So when you come back from the experience that you have, was a lot of your experience dismissed as, well, the brain was dying and it was an illusion or a delusion? Or how can has any of this ever been able to be proven enough that the scientific community in a larger scale accepts it and agrees?
Well, let me say this. First of all, you're talking about the scientific method. The
Yeah.
scientific method, by definition, is a method. It is a left brain tool. You have to be able to do this, do that, do this, do that in the experimental design, and then be able to repeat that and be able to get replicate your results. So, by definition, the scientific method is a left brain tool used for linear thinking. So what happened to me, though, if you look at the book, like, and that's why I keep going to Ian McGilchrist, The Master and His Emissary. What that book is this big fat tome of the science, the basic science that has been studied since the 1950s. So we're looking at 70 years of bench science, and everything in the bench science, ranging from all different levels of critter that have been explored. Birds have been looked at, rats have been looked at, squirrels have been looked at, different kinds of mammals have been looked at, primates have been looked at. So through all of that, my experience does not bring any new science to the conversation. What my experience brings is, what does it feel like when someone says, I have an identity, I have an ego center, I am an ego center, I have linearity across time, or I can get lost in the flow where I'm just in the creative mode, creating music or art or theatrical presentation, but I'm actually in the present moment. So what I bring to the conversation isn't something for the world of science to negate or argue with. And so because of that, I've been invited to hundreds of neurological sciences, neurosurgical organizations, speech, hearing, PT conferences, nursing conferences. I mean, they value what this particular experience, because it was so unique when someone who studies the anatomy of the brain got to visualize and watch moment by moment, which is all documented in that TED Talk and in my Stroke of Insight, what it feels like to break down all that circuitry and then find yourself landed in the present moment with no language, no individuation, no past, none of that of the left brain. And all I had was the present moment. And then what did I do purposely with the tools of the right brain to rebuild the circuitry of the left brain in order for me to become a whole brain person? So it's not been a pushback. It's been an exploration. And how has this particular experience contributed to the overall understanding of the scientific community? And I have to say, everything's timing. Back in the 70s and 80s, when I was in school, we could not talk about two things. We could not talk about energy unless we were talking about the ATP produced at the level of the mitochondria, right? The organelle inside of the cell. So that was the energy. We couldn't talk about energy outside of myself, and we couldn't talk about consciousness, even though I think consciousness was the reason why everybody went into neuro. Because we're fascinated with what am I as a biological.
Yeah. And wasn't there a massive influx in the 70s and 80s about self-help books and understanding yourself and therapy? Like, that was a massive wave.
Yeah. So, but that was the social world. That
not
was
the medical,
not the
scientific
world. But now, especially with quantum, because quantum is the closest science that's going to explain what's going on in the present moment at an energetic level that has absolutely nothing to do with linearity of thought or using the scientific method. But then you're also going to find people like Andrew Newberg, who's a neuroscientist, and he was the one who took a group of Franciscan nuns and a group of monks and put them into a spec machine and said, go pray or go meditate. And when you find God, pull on this string and we'll look in your brain and we'll see where God is, right? We're looking for God. And so what he found was that it wasn't a God center that lit up. It was the cells of the left hemisphere got quiet. And the quiet they stopped inhibiting the cells in the opposite hemisphere so that those cells could actually be experienced. So that's supportive of my experience. And there are all kinds of things now, all kinds of scientists who are doing really interesting things to better understand what's going on inside of the brain.
Stages Podcast will be right back after a word from our sponsor.
Okay, it's going to be a little out there, but this is something. Have you heard of the telepathy tapes?
Yeah.
Okay. I completely believe that it's true. I have no scientific training, but that feels like, yes, that's correct. And that the world is getting to a place where we're getting ready to accept these kinds of things. What's your take on all of that, on the telepathy, on the capabilities that our brain has when we tap into the left hemisphere and we allow it to the right hemisphere, and we allow it to thrive? I mean, are things like telepathy possible, and actually creating your future through vision possible?
Oh, yeah. I mean, that's what it does. It's in the right here, right now experience. And who knows, the right hemisphere, the human right hemisphere, it's a right here, right now, present moment machine. That's all it does. So if I'm not distracted by me and the boundaries and my body functions and my children's needs and my job needs and financial needs and my social responsibilities, if I get rid of all that, what do I have? I have the present moment. And in the present moment, my connection to you is at a whole different level of real, intricate, energetic connection. So when I first heard about the tapes, I thought, these children are tapping into what I call character 4. It's the right thinking tissue of the brain, and they're not distracted by all these other parts of the brain. To them, that rational thinking brain is not conscious. Mm-hmm. It's not there for them. They don't communicate that way. They don't live like that. They're over here in the right hemisphere having that as a dominant experience. And, even couples, when you hang out, or with friends, when you hang out for long periods of time, you're reading each other's minds. Mm-hmm. How many words do you have to use? In the beginning, you might have to use 5 sentences to get that person to grill everything on that grill the right way. Yeah. But by after a few years of that, you use 3 words.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's like, and so of course, so to me, that's what's going on. And I did reach out to them. I haven't heard back from them. But to me, that is exactly what's going on. And I think that they will be able to do MRI and different kinds of testing on this system now to figure out what's different, because, everybody's conscious. The thing about the brain is we have multiple consciousnesses. Yeah. So if I shut down the part of my brain that is playful and open and expansive and creative and fun and camaraderie is what I care about, if I shut that down, and a lot of people have, a lot of people,
cell phones, social media, all of it.
Yeah. So if all I am is a character 1 rational thinker, and I think play and fun is a waste of time, then what message am I communicating to my kids when they're being playful? Right. I'm probably giving them the same thing my parents gave to me. Right. So we're going to shut down that consciousness, because that's a waste of time and that's no good. And all we care about is you got to figure out what you like, and you got to climb the ladder, and you got to get a job, and you got to make a lot of money, and you got to fit into the box of the societal norm, and you have to worry about every rung on that ladder. Yeah. And, so
how sad.
How sad, right?
Yeah. And scientifically, you have said that's not how we're made. I mean, you said our feeling and emotional parts, which are quadrants on both the right and left side of our brain, they never mature. We are kids for our entire life. And so embracing that is literally saying, this is how we're made. This is how we're supposed to be wired and walk through the world.
And maybe that's why there's so much depression and so much people are so unhappy, and why pharmaceutical, aids for that are so rampant now, because people are shutting down
the kid,
the joy that we can all tap into.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Well, I mean, isn't that what good therapy will do, is help you root that out and help you identify that, okay, those things that happened to me 30 years ago I don't have to live by how I feel, because I can stop that loop by looking at it, exploring that. To me, the most amazing thing about being a human is that we have this tiny little group of cells in the left hemisphere. It's in the left emotional group of cells. And those cells purposely, it is their job to step out of the blissful euphoria of the present moment. I mean, seriously, step out of the blissful content, enthusiasm of the present moment and take everything of the present moment and compare it to every experience we had in our past. So these are the cells of our little emotional me, the individual, my individual left emotional tissue, steps out of the consciousness of the present moment and compares it to all my pain from the past, looking for a reason to push away from the present moment and say, no, that's a danger or that's a threat. So without those cells, we have to reinvent the wheel every moment. Well, who wants to do that? We wouldn't survive very long, because it was like, oh, you see a truck go by and something gets wiped out, and it's like, oh, I know not to throw myself out in front of that truck. And then if I don't learn, right? If I don't learn that, then goodbye to me when the next truck goes by. So we have these different groups of cells that give us they have different jobs and they give us different information. But you're absolutely right about information streams in from the external world and first goes into the limbic tissue in each hemisphere,
which is the emotional center.
Yeah. So we are emotional creatures who think, instead of thinking creatures who have emotion. So if I'm just valuing my thinking and I don't allow myself to either learn from the pain from my past because I'm afraid of it, because it hurts, well, pain is information. Pain isn't something we have to run from. Pain is the nervous system saying, hey, I'm not comfortable here. Let's reflect upon this, figure this out, look at it so we can heal it. On. And we can grow and we can transform our lives into something that isn't all caught up in that pain from the past. Not that the pain from the past isn't important, because it is, but ignoring the pain from the past is where we get in trouble.
How did you move past your trauma? Because, I mean, you lived through a big trauma. What was the first thing the doctors focused on with you to get you back to, in quotes, where you needed to be? Do you remember those first couple days? Like, how did they even introduce? If you lose everything, where does one even begin to start healing?
It wasn't the doctors. It was my mother.
It was your mom.
It was my mother. My mother came in on day 3, and she had been told by the doctors that she was in Indiana, I was in Boston. And they called her up. My boss called her up and said, Jill's had a stroke. She's stable, which Gigi thought, as my mother thought, okay, well, that means she's going to be okay. It didn't. It just meant I probably wasn't going to die. But my mom thought that meant Jill's okay. She's going to be okay.
Because you're 37 at the time?
37 years old.
37,
yeah. So Gigi but my boss says, plan on coming for a while, 4 to 6 weeks at least, because she's going to need attention here. And so Gigi came on the morning of the 3rd day. I didn't know what a Gigi was. I didn't know what a mother was. I had no recollection of my past. All I had was I had become an infant in a woman's body. That's all I had. That's all I was. But my doctors and my colleagues kept saying, well, Gigi's coming to town. And I'm going, what's a Gigi? I don't know what a Gigi is. And so on the 3rd day, Gigi comes in. She's thinking, I'm going to be sitting up. I'm going to be speaking. I'm going to be okay. And I'm literally laying in the bed like a lump of lead. Wow. And she comes in the door and we catch eyes with one another, and she just realizes this is stable, right?
And so there was no recollection when you looked her in the eye. You didn't know
nothing. I knew nothing. I had no past. I didn't have a past for years.
But I didn't know if energetically you would have felt that there was something special there. That's so interesting.
No. Total disconnect. So Gigi comes in the door. She acknowledges the doctors along the way, and she picks up the sheet and she crawls in bed with me. She wraps her arms around me and she starts rocking her baby. Oh. And I'm thinking, oh, This is a GG.
Comfort, rocking, safety, whatever.
Somebody claimed me.
Ah.
Because I was an infant. I couldn't talk. I couldn't understand what they were going to do to me. I couldn't sign anything. I mean, I had nothing. And this woman came in and took ownership of me, and she wrapped me in her love. And the biggest thing that girl did was, first of all, she got me out of the hospital as soon as she could because she didn't want me to get an infection. And she let me sleep. Let me sleep. And my brain just wanted sleep. And then she would let me wake up on my own time. And when I woke up, she would give me food. She would try to take me to the bathroom once I could do that. And then eventually I would, so I was on a 6 hour sleep, and then I'd wake up, and then I sleep, so I was on the 6 hours.
Like an infant.
Like an infant. And then eventually
sleep, eat, poop.
Sleep, eat, poop. That was it. She let me. She had no expectations. She truly believed that nothing knew better than my brain what it needed in order for it to recover. So her job was to get rid of all obstacles for me being able to give myself what I needed.
And then where in the process, since your left brain was completely gone and you couldn't remember anything, when in the process did you start recalling your experience of actually having the stroke? So you could recall, I don't feel this, I took a shower, I looked at business cards, I called my work. When did all those memories come flooding back so you could tell your story?
The right hemisphere is a movie. Didn't go away. The right hemisphere tells the movie. So I could remember, so the right hemisphere is these moments. So I had the moment of, for example, being in the shower where I turn on the water and the volume literally knocks me into the wall and I cannot distinguish the atoms and molecules. Now I had no linearity to my moments, but I had this memory of these moments. And so then it was, I'm going to say a good 2 years. No, I think it was in somewhere between year 1 and year 2. I wanted to write the morning of the stroke while it was so clear and I didn't have any input from anybody else. And so I went to a Gestalt therapist and I spent a weekend working with that therapist. And I actually have this on videotape of recreating from the Gestalt of my body, redoing the morning of the stroke and telling the story as now I had language. And so we could get that linearity across time in order to be able to act that out and be able to document it.
What's the bridge called that goes from the
corpus callosum?
Okay.
Yeah, if you saw my notes, I mean, I couldn't spell I couldn't spell schizophrenia, calorsa. I mean, these are impossible things. Speaking of
Stages podcast will be right back, so don't go away.
You're very open about your brother having schizophrenia. It's what triggered you to study the anatomy of the brain. Is he still with us? Do you still have a relationship with him? Do you both speak of your anomalies with the brain? Is that a conversation you two share?
He doesn't acknowledge or believe he has schizophrenia. He believes he is the androgynous bride of Christ. So no, I'm literally, the name of the first book was almost Michael the White Horseman, because he really truly believes he is Michael the White Horseman, and he believes I am the queen of all evil. So yeah, I mean, that's high status, that's high in its own way. So the book was almost the White Horseman and the queen of all evil.
How young were you when your brother labeled you the queen of all evil?
Oh my gosh, 25.
Oh my goodness.
Because I didn't believe him. He started in with his hallucinations, his delusion in late teens. And it became worse and worse and worse because my parents were academics and we thought, oh, we're just a bunch of eccentrics. He's just being eccentric. It's okay.
Mm-hmm.
We're a
Mm-hmm.
family of eccentrics. And I kept saying, no, this is not eccentricity. This is a biological problem. We need to get this boy help. And if it were me, I would want you to get me help. And they would say, oh, you're just being a mean little sister. And I just thought, yeah, don't listen to the anatomist in the family.
Mm-hmm.
So, it was just that ongoing battle. But he is doing remarkably well. I take care of him. I take care of, he's essentially my ward. And so I take care of all of his housing and all of his needs and all of that. And my assistant sees him every day and gives him his meds. So he's in good shape. And yeah, and it's interesting that in our system in these states here, he gets actually better medical care than I do.
Huh.
And I'm okay with that because he needs it. I can take care of my own sugar levels. He is unconscious to all that. So,
Yeah.
but yeah.
Yeah. Well,
Do
thank
you
goodness he has you, because his life would be quite different if he didn't have someone like you, as
Queen of
intelligent and
all evil.
compassionate, can
Yeah,
help him and look out for
correct.
him. Yeah.
The queen of all evil who sees him, understands what's going
Yeah.
on, willing to
Right.
nurture and care.
Yeah.
Do you have fear in your daily life that possibly this could happen again, or is fear not a driving force in your life?
Oh, no. I had a malformation in my blood vessels in my brain that I was born with. It was a congenital malformation. Usually you have a big old high power artery. It tapers down to a capillary network where all the red blood cells line up one at a time. And then via osmosis, the suction of the liquid from a vein, low power vein system to bring that back to the pump and the lungs and all that. So I had an artery directly connected to a vein. So I had a high pressure attached to a low pressure, and eventually they blow. And it's called an arteriovenous malformation. They usually happen in the prime life between 25 and 45, and mine was right on time. I was 37. I didn't know it was there. I had been diagnosed since I was 17 with a migraine headache. It turns out I never had a migraine headache. I was having small bleeds for 20 years.
Wow.
Whoa.
Wow. A really good friend of ours experienced a stroke as well a couple of years ago. Similar. It was due to something he was born with in the back that he didn't know, and he was missing something. I don't know the technical terms, but he had a stroke, same side as you, very similar experience to you. And I was talking to him the other day, and he said to make sure I tell you that your book, he had read it before, but he reread it when he was healing, and it was a big inspiration for him, and it really
Right.
helped him to come back. And he's pretty much completely fine now, but it was a long road for him.
Yeah.
But I have a question. So you know how the brain is a muscle, and when we don't use muscles, they wither. And then I was reading, because I started doing cold plunges, how when we make ourselves do things that are uncomfortable, that is a challenge, that you actually grow brain matter.
Mhm.
So when you force yourself to sit in that cold plunge because it's good for you, even though it's a little bit unpleasant, you actually grow your brain. So does that sort of, the more we use character 4, the more we use character 3, do they become stronger than the opposite characters and
So
become sort of our lead characters?
I would say that think of it as neurons. It's not like the cell is a muscle because it's more like tofu, which isn't really much like a muscle. But anyway, it's made up of neurons, and neurons communicate with neurons in circuits. And the more you run a circuit, the stronger that circuit becomes, and then it begins to run itself on automatic. So this is how we create new kinds of emotional or cognitive habits. So if I'm going to then run, all of a sudden, well, it's like anything. If I'm going to run, more, right? And I'm going to get my body going, and then I'm going to be able to run longer, and then I'm going to run easier, and I'm going to, more streamline my running or playing the piano or whatever it is. What I'm doing is I am shifting the neuroplasticity of the brain so that which neurons are communicating with which neurons, with which chemicals, in what quantities of those chemicals, strengthening those circuits. So as we grow circuits, sometimes, yes, we can grow some new cells, but that's usually in response to trauma. And that's the whole philosophy behind stem cells, except stem cells usually come from somewhere else in the body and are being put in there, but they don't know where to go. So it's kind of like, well, they can increase the local network, but they're not going to go where they used to go when those cells in that area were first developing and creating the overall network. So the more you do anything, the stronger they get. Yeah, the more time you train yourself to put your mind in the present moment, then the more that you're strengthening that circuit of being in the present moment. And then you want to keep doing the linearity across time circuitry. So it's not so much when you're learning new things that it's going to lessen what you learned before on another portion of the brain, but now you're strengthening the whole brain. For me, that is the evolution of humanity. It is when all four parts of my brain are strong, powerful individuals, and they know about one another, and they're communicating with one another. And these are actual personalities. So if I'm holding a brain huddle between the four different personalities inside of my brain, then I become a democracy. And it might be, okay, brain, I need to wash the boat. I need to go out there. I need about 4 hours. I need to really do it and just not be interrupted. And so my rational thinking brain's going to say, okay, so let's get A, B, and C done first. And then let's do E, D, E, F, G. And then you go do that. And I'll get in the background and I won't come and bother you for the next 4 hours so that you can get your stuff done in your own time, in your own way. And so then I have no personal conflict because the different parts of my brain are negotiating. And let's say, okay, well, I got this presentation I have to give next week, and my little character 2 is now feeling the gnaw of oh my God, I'm not going to have enough time. Oh my God, I'm not good enough. Oh my God, I'm going to have to fly. Oh my God, which it does so well because it's an important part of who we are. But it says, okay, I'm just going to let y'all play. So go clean the boat. And character 1 over here, rational thinking, thank you for creating order, and I'll be quiet and calm and I won't distract us all. And then my character 4, which is my right thinking tissue, where I'm connected to all that is and big as the universe, and in nirvana, comes online and says, well, I'm just gonna celebrate the whole time we're here, and we might take a pause every now and again and just dump the water on my head and cool.
I love dirt. I'm gonna sing songs. Look at that fish. I just love everything.
God, I'm alive,
Has there been an activity where a brain has been shown that all 4 quadrants are being used, or at what point has the most part of the brain been used? Has that ever been seen or tested or documented?
The brain is made up of all these neurons. And if you look at a functional imaging scan, everything is lit up. I mean,
firing at all times.
It's all, it may be in the background.
Yeah.
Like I can answer a phone call and I'm covered because I was doing something and I'm now covered with mud and I'm a disaster, but the phone rings and it's appropriate for me to answer that call. It's still running in the background, and now I'm going to bring the focus to that. I'm going to bring the focus to my language. I'm going to actually think about something else at some other time because now I'm talking to this thing, and at the other end of that is some person somewhere else in the world, and I need to reactivate, and get that all going. So if you look at scanning, it's all firing, but the question is, where's the focus? And the focus, and this is what functional imaging does essentially, is it measures where's the blood flow going moment by moment because you have to have blood with oxygen and sugar going to those cells that are going to be the focal point of activity.
And we choose that.
And you choose that,
and
right?
We choose that.
And realistically, if you go into the tube of MRI machine and you're laying around doing nothing, and they're just, they may give you some very specific things to do. Like when I was doing my postdoc at Harvard, we were in the tube, and the guy who I was working for was the first person to put a little mirror over my face and then project dots, going randomly one direction or randomly the other direction, and I had to track trace, and then they're coming at me and they're getting small, coming at me, or they're going away from me and they're getting bigger, and then they're mapping, well, which cells in that visual cortex are particularly being activated for movement. And so, the brain is this very big place with a whole bunch of tiny little skill sets that all fit together then in order for us to manifest as a human in the world. And we don't even think about, oh my God, I'm so grateful I have bladder capacity.
Right.
I
My
know.
heart's
Look,
still
my
beating and I'm
elbows
remembering
move.
to breathe. Right.
Yeah.
All of it. Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
I think I read somewhere that you said one of the greatest things we can do for ourselves for brain health is get out of our routine, get out of our norms, do different,
No,
unusual,
no.
foreign things to us.
Yeah.
Learn.
Novel, because then my brain actually has to work on trying to figure out, like, if I am looking at the calendar on my refrigerator and I put it all upside down, I have to look at it and I have to like count backwards and I have to rearrange the way I think about something. Well, in the meantime, I'm working those cells, right?
Yeah.
That's important. Or if I'm, this is one of my favorites. As we age, the biggest mistake we make is we simplify our lives. So let's say, and what we're doing is we are routinizing, creating a routine that is so defined, we don't even have to think about what we're doing anymore. We go on automatic. Well, what that means is that I'm saying to my brain, I don't care about all you other cells that are in there trying to figure out new stuff. I'm going to go as simple as possible and routinize as much as possible, do as little as possible so that you guys can get rid of all those other little interesting connections. And all I need is my routine. And then we wonder why we're not thinking creatively. Well, it's because we trained ourselves.
Right, while my 10-year-old is like, I'm going to try to brush my teeth with my left hand while standing on one foot while turning on and off the light. Yeah. And you're like, why are you doing that? And
you should do that too. You should do that too. We should be doing weird stuff every day because it's saying to the brain cells, I care about new and interesting connections. I want you to be working for me throughout my lifespan. I'm anticipating my life is going to be a while. So I don't want to routinize smaller. So that is, that's, use them. It's like you said, for the muscle, it is the same as use it or lose it.
I have a question. You were talking about creating new neural pathways. Generally, when you're trying to form a new habit, a new way of doing something, how long does it take to create that new neural pathway? And the reason I'm asking is because you talked about the 90-second rule, how generally our feelings flow through us. It's 90 seconds. So if you're with a narcissist and they're saying something horrible, instead of taking the bait, just give it 90 seconds to let that feeling move through you, make a choice which part of you is going to respond or not respond, and then move forward. But I've been trying to do it with beauty too. So like if I'm walking my dogs in the woods and I see something beautiful, I try to actually stop for 90 seconds and let the beauty in for 90 seconds, because we tend to move too fast, right? We go right past it. So I have to keep reminding myself to do that. And I'm wondering, when will that neural pathway be so strong and clear that automatically I see something and I stop and my brain goes for 90 seconds. Wow, let's breathe that. Okay, great. Yeah. When does it become automatic?
It's going to be unique to every person. For me, I can look out at the trees and leaves are doing whatever leaves do in the breeze. And I look at it and I don't focus on the leaves. I experience the energetic of the energy moving those leaves. As soon as I do that, I open and I expand. So I can do it in an instant. I can do it as an instant because of the stroke. And it's precious to me, so that's my go-to. So if that were your go-to, 50 times a day, then you're going to make that pathway over there a lot quicker than if you do it once or twice a day.
Mm. It's a real feeling. And as performers, Steph, you
It's
know
a,
that we know this feeling when you're on stage
yeah,
and you hit one of those real moments, whether it's
Mm.
harmonizing in a note in a song, or
yeah,
you happen to see someone in the audience who's moved to tears by something that's happening. It's a literal feeling
yeah,
inside that
Mhm.
yeah,
I know it when I feel it, and you always want to hold on to it. I actually
yeah,
feel it when I've gone up to see the gorillas in Rwanda, and it's the same feeling. I sit there, I cry every time because it's that same feeling. And it's
mm,
indescribable.
yeah, yeah,
It's not painful, but it's a physical like
yeah,
ache,
yeah.
almost like
Yeah.
a homesickness is sort of
It's
how it
an
feels.
expansive. It's literally an
Yes.
expansive of
Yeah.
yes. It's an
Yep.
expansive of the energy of what you are. So you're literally pushing out your own energetic expression,
Yeah.
and that becomes a part. It's an invitation to you
Exactly.
to do that. And there's just this incredible sense of bonding. And it only happens in the present moment,
That's
right?
it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Don't think, stop analyzing. What kind of monster is that? What was that facial expression?
Yeah.
All those things that the left brain does. Da, 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 da. How much do you think he weighs? How big is he? Oh, is there another one over there? Stop the
Stop it. Stop
language
it.
and come into the present. So you might find that if you actually spend more time coming to the present moment, that if you that's the goal, then whatever's in the present moment you will be training yourself to be open more to.
You use the word welcoming, and that for me, ML, is what it is. I
Yeah.
lose myself and yet somehow find myself. I feel
Hmm.
safer, comfortable, more at home, and probably the only part of my body that I feel, interestingly enough, because I would have assumed it was the Christ consciousness. It's the bottoms of my feet. I
Mhm.
can
Oh.
only feel, so it's almost like rooting, right? So
Huh.
all this opens up, but
Yeah,
yet my feet, that's the only part of my body I can feel.
yeah,
Isn't that interesting?
That
yeah,
is interesting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Beautiful.
Oh,
Why do we do that to ourselves? Why do we pull ourselves from those moments out of fear of people are going to think we're wacky because we're trying to walk around and find that opening all the time? Why why
Oh,
is it that we
there are
pull
a lot of
ourselves?
people there are a lot of people who don't ever try. There are some people who they don't even know what we're talking about,
right.
you
Right.
know.
The awareness of it doesn't even
Yeah.
exist.
Right. And much less the experience. And then if something weird does happen, it gets labeled as weird and
Yeah.
uncomfortable. And now I'm afraid of it. And I'm going to push that away. And then we're going to call that woo woo. And then we're going to criticize those people who are woo woo because woo woo is no good. And it's like, let's just take a breath,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And recognize that whatever is woo woo is simply language that is used in a negative way in order to define and describe the experience of the right here, right now experience.
Of
And it's
living. The
of
experience
living.
of living.
We go
Yes.
woo woo on this podcast all the time, and
We do.
we've taken the woo woo, and it's not negative here. We love woo woo.
But you
We
know what?
search for woo woo.
It's making more sense to me now because I didn't know the anatomy of the brain. I knew there were two hemispheres, and I was told, wrongfully so, we can only access 10% of our brain, and there's the bridge. But now that I know that the emotional part, the blood and the cells and all of our thinking goes through the emotional part before it hits the top.
Mm.
This makes great sense to me. So that
Yeah.
emotional filter, with all due respect, listeners, I'm going to define that's your woo woo. Everything you're feeling and seeing and becoming with and communicating and connecting. So you got to go through the woo woo to then get to the logical. And maybe somehow we stay in the logical, but I don't know. I love that the filter is woo woo. I just love that.
Me
And we were
too.
designed that way. We're not making this up. We were
Yeah.
designed that way.
We are feeling creatures who think.
Yeah.
Yeah. To me, though, I define the woo woo as more of the right thinking tissue.
Okay.
because the right thinking is simply right here, right now, connected to all that is. And it just is this sense of gratitude, this sense of awe, of wonder, of celebration of life. And I'm going to loop that right back to when I had that stroke. What kept me going was besides having this wonderful mother who was letting me sleep, for me, I did not die that day.
Yeah.
I did not die that day. And how could I bemoan or be sad or be anything other than grateful that I was still here, even though I didn't have that part of my brain working or those levels of consciousness? I was still a conscious being having a living experience, and I had new hope. I had a new chance. So I never bemoaned any of what I lost. What I did was I celebrated what I still had. And with in the beginning,
Gratitude.
yeah, and all in the beginning, all I had was life. But with sleep and a little time, I just started rebuilding those circuits so that day by day. Now I'm in the present moment, so I had no awareness of how I was different today than I was yesterday. But my mother was on the phone every night saying, "Oh my God, Jill can do this today. She couldn't do it yesterday." And so I could hear her enthusiasm of, I am recovering, whatever it is. I don't have to have a specific goal and a date. And that's why it drives me insane when physicians say, if you don't have it back by 3 months, forget it. You're never going to get it back.
Right.
It's like, I was making progress for 8 full years before I decided I was done. And that was when I felt as though I was a solid again instead of a fluid.
Can I ask you, what do you think happens when we die?
I think that the if we look at these four quadrants of cells inside of our brain, I feel like our consciousness as a living being is go back to the womb, go back to you're a single cell, half your DNA from mom, half your DNA from dad, the energy around that cell to multiply that DNA, repackage the DNA in a new cell, then those two cells duplicate the DNA, repackage those cells. This will happen for 9 full months at a rate of 250,000 cells per second. I mean, when we are in gestation, we are this energy ball and just the biology of multiplication and division and multiplication. And then each of those cells, as they come online, they differentiate to have different skill sets so that my liver cells are going to look different than my kidney cells, are going to look different from my brain cells, and they just multiply. So I'm this big ball of energy around this magnificent collection of cells. And by the time we're born, the brain cells are in position, but they are not interconnected yet. So that's why the first 2 to 3 years of life is so important, because now those cells are interconnecting based on experience. And so we are this nature nurture creature. And so that's why it's so important that during those first 2 to 3 years, we offer an enriched environment. Get these kids crawling on things, get these kids crawling on different kinds of things, get these kids being dragged behind a ski boat, have these kids have all these different experiences so that the neurons are all making new connections of possibility. And so then so the emotional tissue is better developed in each hemisphere than the thinking tissue, because we have to be able to wail, we have to have a way of communicating, we have to experience pain, we have to communicate our needs in some kind of an emotional way. And then as we get older, the connections from the thinking tissue, that tissue is designed to regulate and modulate what's going on in the emotional tissue below. We can comprehend and we can communicate. Oh my God. I mean, it's a miracle that we exist.
It's a miracle.
All this is happening. And so then we go backwards when it comes time for death, because the last thing that really develop well is going to be that rational left thinking brain. When we're dying, what do? We peel off that rational thinking brain that is somewhere other than here because we're not there anymore, right? And then the emotion of the past and of the future that loses its value because again, we're in the process of dying. We're right here, right now. And then the body and our relationship to the body and the experiential of that right emotional tissue, then that starts to go down because we're not running around. We're not running, I'm talking about a normal death, but we're not running around anymore. And then, so the last part to go will be the dissipation of our right brain consciousness, where we are connected to all that is, dissipates and disconnects from this body. And then we're out there and who knows? I don't know. That's the best I can do.
So we're born as little universes, and when we go, we become part of
exactly.
Yeah. That was a long way of getting to, I don't know.
I don't know.
Yeah, but you have to take the journey to
you do.
Especially
when you're a genius scientist from Harvard. Of course you do.
Oh my God.
We'll be right back with the 5 questions, but first a word from our sponsor.
My gosh. Well, this was so wonderful. I really could talk to you for another 5 hours, but we won't do that to you.
And
I
have
was
a million
nervous. Questions.
My left brain was talking so loud, going, what do you have to offer? How can you even participate in a conversation like this? Truly. So I'm glad that I was in the moment, got to learn, and we just connected on a different level, way beyond things I couldn't spell. So thank you for your grace.
So we end every episode with 5 kind of rapid fire questions. Are you game for that? Okay.
Okay, here we go.
First question. Yeah. Tell me, what is your perfect sandwich?
Oh, that's a good one. My perfect sandwich is thick salami, soft bread, I don't care what kind, with tomato and lettuce and Miracle Whip. And
Miracle Whip. So Indiana. That is so Indiana of you.
It's yummy. That's my perfect sandwich.
So earlier in the conversation, you mentioned something. Hey, if we didn't have our left brain, we'd end up in jail. This is one of our questions. If we were to call your dearest friend or whoever is closest to you and say, hey, Dr. Jill has landed herself in jail, what would they have assumed you've done to get yourself there?
I don't know what they'd think I'd done, but they would laugh their butts off.
Because it's just so improbable.
Well, it's just like, it's so Jill. It's just got caught at one of the many things that I might do. And my guess is it's something delinquent outside, like sneaking into the neighbor's pool at 3 a.m.
So it would be character 3 that would get you.
Oh, no question.
Yeah,
something like that.
Okay. If you could wake up tomorrow morning with a superpower, what would it be?
Yeah. I have my superpower, and it is whole brain living. It is knowing all parts of my brain. I tell you, it is a superpower. When you know intimately all 4 parts of who you are, and you value them, and you celebrate them, and you exercise them, you bring all of you to the table. And to me, that's the superpower. So incredible. I feel like that's the gift of the stroke. It gave me the superpower of who I am.
Yeah. Look, you've already written best-selling books, A Stroke of Insight, Whole Brain Living. But if you were writing a book right now, today, what would you name the chapter of this moment in your life?
How to live on a boat. Yeah, it would be how to live on a boat.
Get your own brain waves.
Yeah, get your own brain waves. Because when you live on a boat, you are forced to live in the present moment. Because you could sink and die at any moment in any bad weather. Stuff is always breaking. You have to fix your own battery bank. You have to fix your own water tank. You got to fix your own everything. You got to be a best friend with YouTube. This is the beauty of living on a boat. Is people say, oh, it's relaxed. Oh, Jill's out in the cove. No, Jill is living in a cove for 6 months, facing nature, living with God, and it is primal. Yeah, I
Wow.
got snakes I have to deal with. I have bear I have to deal with. I have dogs I have to worry about falling in the lake. So life on a boat.
Wow.
Okay.
My husband calls YouTube his daddy.
Oh yeah,
It's like YouTube's my daddy.
I get it completely.
Gotta
Yeah,
ask Daddy a question.
Okay.
exactly. I love it.
Last question. If you were a nail polish color,
Yeah.
what color would you be and what would the cheeky little name be?
I'd be hot red,
Ah,
and I'd be called Ruby.
I love it.
Ruby.
Ruby.
Oh, you're
Yeah.
Dr. Jill.
extraordinary.
I'm so happy to meet you. It is such an honor. I really have. I fell in love with you when I saw your TED Talk, and it's just an honor to have you here and spread your beautiful message. And I hope people really take it to heart. I know I've been waking up every morning and seeing which character's trying to get me out of bed, and I'm trying to cry it down one. And
Yeah.
I'm trying to bring in four before I
Yeah.
do anything.
I
So
love that.
there's a lot of things in your book that I'm carrying with me, and I'm just at the beginning of it, but I
Yeah.
feel them taking hold in my heart and in my
Yeah.
mind,
Oh,
and I love
I
it.
love it. So to help you on that first awakening, think about in this moment, I don't know the position of my body in space.
Mm.
Right. So because eventually that hooks on left brain and says, okay, my legs are crossed, or my legs are doing this, or I'm tied up in this blanket, or where are my hands, or what's going on. Forget, just be aware in that moment. You don't know where you are. And hold that consciousness as long as you can. And it's like, cool. And you'll see that you may not have any idea what I'm talking about until you know what I'm talking about.
I
Yeah.
love that.
Yeah.
Thank you so
Thank you.
much.
Thank you so
Pleasure.
much.
Been a pleasure, ladies.
I
Thank
hope there are
you.
no bears or snakes in your future today.
Yeah, let's see.
All right.
Yeah.
Have a
Thank you.
beautiful weekend. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you. You
We
sign
stay
off.
on and
We
chat
stay
about
on
you.
and talk about you.
Okay.
Now, what struck a chord with us?
Yay.
I almost want us to get cute little necklaces with 4 keys on them
Yes.
so that we can unlock whatever quadrants of our brain.
I love it.
Let's do it.
Let's
Nobody
design
else
it.
even needs to. Let's design it.
Design it, and we'll
you-
make them
who
for each
makes
other
jewelry?
first. I don't know. I'll find somebody.
Okay.
I love that idea.
I love that idea too, because she refers to in her book naming them, like giving them actual names.
Have
I
you
think
named
she's got
yours?
like
Yeah, Helen is
yes,
Hell on
Helen for-
Wheels. That's number
yes.
1, and Pigpen is 3.
yes, Abby for being abandoned is number 2.
And then the Queen Bee or B something B, Queen Bee or Queen something
It
is her
definitely is
4th.
Queen. I remember Queen, and it's not the derogatory name that her brother gave her. It was something else. But for me, every time I was reading part of her book or watching an interview, they just looked like 4 little houses to me. And it's like, which, and she even referred to, right? I live here, but I rent here, or maybe I said it, but whatever. I like that idea. I'm choosing to be in this house. I'm turning the lights on this one. I'm dimming the lights on that one.
You know
Yeah,
what's
that'd be
really
fun.
interesting? Okay. For me,
Hmm?
because I've thought about stuff like this for a while because of all the yoga, right? And because I have some very challenging people in my family,
Orbit.
right? In my orbit. So I used to try to teach about forgiveness when I would teach a class, and I would say forgiveness needs to be automatic, right? Forgiveness isn't earned. Respect and trust are earned. So you have to
Yes.
just forgive for free, set yourself free, and let them earn your respect or trust. And maybe they will, maybe they won't. That's up to them. But this kind of adds to that for me, where I used to have a hard time letting go of other people's bad behavior because I felt like I was letting them off the hook. But this allows me to go, okay, it's my character 1 that wants to punish them for their bad behavior or wants to hold on to their bad behavior and remember it for future, evidence. But if I let that go and I jump into character 3 or 4 and say, that's just where they are, just let them be who they are, and you get to sort of separate energetically and from all of it. And it's not about forgiving, it's not about allowing, it's not about any of that. It's just
You're
about
just
you
making a choice to do
for
what you need to
you.
do. Uh-huh.
This has sort of helped me get there, this book.
I love that.
Yeah.
So, two things are standing out to me. I watched her moment with Oprah on Super Soul Sunday,
Yeah.
and Oprah said, what I'm taking from it is we all have to take responsibility for the energy that we bring to a space.
Mhm.
And we also have to take responsibility for the energy that surrounds us.
Mhm.
These are our responsibilities. And it's wildly important how we enter something and how we also say, well, I'm going to remove myself from that.
Yes.
Then there was another gentleman, and I apologize, I don't remember who she was speaking with. He then referred to his book and a quote that he took, which is, I found so interesting. He said, our life is the C between B and D. B being birth, D being death, C being choice.
Ooh.
And life is choice.
Ooh, I love.
Isn't that powerful?
It is very empowering.
Yes.
It is. And this book helps you see
It's
that you are in charge of that power. It's not about teaching anybody else a lesson. It's just let them live their life. Let them make their choices. Let their behavior be theirs.
yes, yes.
And they will suffer the consequences. It's not up to you to make sure they do or to try to control. You just have to step out and into that really beautiful, peaceful part of yourself. And those
Yeah.
90 seconds allow you to get there. I don't know.
And
There's
it's
a
a real
lot in this
manual.
book.
Yeah, it's a real manual. You and I spoke several episodes ago about Mel Robbins and how her new theory, let them,
Yeah, let them.
right?
Yeah,
This is a very similar thing,
very.
except it's not giving them the control by saying whatever they do. It's very much I have the
Yes.
power in whatever I do. And
Right.
nothing against Mel Robbins. She's a genius. She inspires me
Yeah,
greatly.
she's awesome.
She's awesome. But I did like the whole brain in the sense that I felt much more in control in a very uncontrolled world because
Yes.
of how powerful we are with these four houses in our head.
Yeah.
And we have access to all of them, not the 10% that we've been told, not it's only the right brain or the left brain. We have access to all of that. And that
Yeah.
made me feel like I now have a skill set that I was told I didn't have before, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I-
No, it's great. And it is like when you first pick up the book, it takes a
Overwhelming.
minute.
Yeah.
I sort of saw it like a jigsaw puzzle. Like, when you first dump out a jigsaw puzzle
Yeah.
and you see all these pieces and colors and you're like, oh my God, how am I going to
How's
make
this going to
sense
come
of this?
together?
But the more you look at it, the more you start to see the textures and the shapes and the thing. And then they
Mm.
start almost calling to you where they belong. That's how this
Mhm.
book is. At first, it's like, whoa, wait a second. There's a lot going on here. But then the more you sit with it, the more it pieces itself together inside of you. Does that make
Yeah,
sense?
it totally
That's
makes
how it felt
sense.
to me as
And
I was
that
reading.
seems like it aligns with who she is. Again, it's not about the linear, it's not about making it clear and cut. It's about seeing things in a different way, bringing it together with how it works for you and how it feels organic to who you are. She's a cool
And
lady.
she's so cool.
Yeah.
I was thinking, like, if you know how they say, like, if you could invite 12 people to dinner, I would totally invite her to the
You
dinner.
would.
Totally. Because she's so fascinating. And there's so many questions I wanted to ask her about Alzheimer's and about
I
even
know.
about like personality disorders. Like, there's a million questions I wanted
I
to
wanted
ask
to
her.
dive a little bit into schizophrenia and where does that live in the
Yeah.
brain, all the different,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
different
Anyway, this was
disorders and
such a fun one.
oh, and girl, if you don't know this about me, everybody, I love MRIs. I've had several. I couldn't feel cozier in this cocoon of where I can barely move and I'm actually being told don't do anything, hardly breathe. I love it. I know it brings a lot of like anxiety and fear for a lot of people. Not me. And at one point, someone's like, "Oh, that's interesting. You know, a lot of artistic people actually like it." And I said, "Oh, I am artistic." And she said, "No, no, autistic." And I said, "Oh." Okay. Oh,
Well,
all right.
maybe
Well,
partly
maybe that too.
Very likely.
But yeah, there is a safety in an MRI
Yeah.
for me where I have nothing to do but just lay still, lay quiet, and everybody else
Permission.
gets to do permission.
You get permission to do
And I'm not
nothing.
distracted. Like there's nothing to look at, nothing. It's really interesting. I need to explore that more. Why I love MRIs.
It's so funny.
Oh, I love you,
Oh,
friends, so
I
much.
love you too. That was really fun.
I feel
love
smarter
these
and better
ones.
and more in control. I love it.
Me too. And we're gonna. We need to design that,
The
and we'll
keys.
make it. And you and I will wear it, and then maybe we can get them made and sell them on the website, even if people want to get them.
I love that.
But we have to design it together first.
When we're in New York.
Yeah. Okay.
Let's do it in New York.
I'm so excited. Okay.
Me too.
Yay.
Okay. I love you.
All right,
Goodbye.
I love you. Goodbye. Stages podcast is produced by Mary Lee Fairbanks and Stephanie J. Block. You can find us wherever you listen to your podcasts. Join us on social media pages or sign up for the mailing list at stagespodcast.net. That is also where you will find Stages swag. If you enjoyed this podcast, please share and rate and review the show. It really helps us grow. Big thank you to Noah Kaiserman and Garrett Healy for the original music, and Allison Arns, who has been with us since day one. See you soon.